Mr. Trump, if I were to reduce his economic program, it would be a mistake to assume that there's no method to the madness. There is a plan here, and one of the ways to reduce it to its core is to say that he understands, and when I say he, I mean, the entourage around him, his advisors, and all of that. They understand that American capitalism is in trouble. We agree with them on that, I think. And here comes the core of it. For them, the United States has been cheated, has been treated crudely, and the connivance of the Democrats and the connivance of Bush-type Republicans also made that possible. It's almost as if the evil Europeans, because they are very big in this story, had a fifth column inside the United States, but that the Democrats here, the liberals here, were weak and unable to prevent the U.S. getting ripped off by the rest of the world, particularly over the last 40 years. Is China developing dramatically? Yes, because they, quote, stole our technology, because they allowed Western capitalists in there and really went to town ripping them off. Wow. And so the solution, get rid of the Democrats. He did that in the election. Get rid of the Bush-type Republicans. He did that in the primaries the first time, pushed them out of the story. So now he's left with the people who cheated us. And so his advisors developed a formula. We are cheated to the extent that other countries sell more to the United States than we sell to them. They're taking advantage of our wealth, our richness, our success as a capitalist country by selling us a lot more. So among the worst behaved, China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and a whole host of other countries. And now Mr. Trump presents himself as the person who's going to fix all of that, who's going to punish those bad countries that have abused us and make them pay for the access to this market, what they should have been made to pay, but which the weak Republicans and the awful Democrats, increasingly, by the way, lumped as the radical left, which, if you know anything about the Bush family, has to make you smile or fall off your chair laughing. And so slapping tariffs became the weapon of choice. He doesn't need the Congress to do it, because Congress ceded that power some years ago in legislation. So he can grandstand all day, raising them, lowering them, postponing them, delaying them, hurting them. He's going to go after Apple Computer, a tariff against a company which violates virtually every law in the country. You can't do that. But, what difference does it make? He's out there punishing the people who have taken advantage of the United States. Now, the reality, of course, is radically different. The reason the United States buys much more from China or Vietnam or Bangladesh or any of the other relevant countries around the world is mostly because American corporations seeking higher profits closed their production in the United States starting in the 1970s and moved it to China and Vietnam and Bangladesh. That's why we have these numbers that are in the formula Mr. Trump wants us to use. The decision to go over there wasn't made by China or Vietnam. It was made by brothers and sisters who are Americans, who happen to be in a position on the boards of directors of the corporations that made these moves. They would never have enjoyed the profitability of the last 30 years that has produced the billionaires whose names we now all know. These are corporations who, for Mr. Trump to tell the actual story, would not only mean who's he gonna blame. You no longer can blame the Chinese or the Vietnamese or the Communist Party of China. You'd have to point the finger of blame where it belongs, which is on corporate America. And Mr. Trump is not an idiot. He's not going to do that because his career would come to a crashing end in a matter of days if he dared to go in that direction. So his story is now to be understood as making the evil foreigners pay in order not to blame the corporate leaders who made it all happen. No gun to their head to go over there and make a lot of money doing it, which they did. Now, they didn't share that money, so they failed to get the popular mass of the American people to feel good about all of this. They thought they could get away with neoliberalism, with some abstract economics that my profession teaches, that free trade is some win-win situation, which it has never been. All the academics did it. All the mass media did it. It was a chorus that never stopped until the mass of the American people had it. That's all that stopped it. It really was the working class. It didn't have the ideology, because that's a failure of you and me. We're not strong enough to give the understanding that I'm trying to get across now. But the mass of people's anger, that was what Mr. Trump tapped. He could use the anger to keep the American empire going a little while longer than it might otherwise have been able to do. And how's he going to do it? By his program of punishing the rest of the world, tariff on you all, and letting it filter through the economy in higher prices, which is the equivalent of a tax on the mass of the American people. So the working class here will pay part of the freight of a program of punishing the rest of the world. And if that isolates the United States, that shows you that they are in trouble. They don't care, because for them, it's either we do that or this empire, and we with it, go down sooner. The bottom line here, we need to understand we're not dealing with a government that is handling us from a position of strength. We are struggling with a government that is desperate, that has no other way to survive, hasn't found any. Look at the Democrats. They don't offer anything as an alternative. They are the empty suit these days. And again, let's not get caught up in our own ideology. It's not just chaos. That's a mistake. There's a logic here. There's an intent here. And there are winners and losers if they succeed. And if they do, we will have another 20, 40 years of an American empire, one that will be hurt. But right now, the squeeze is still on the foreigner and on the American working class, so long as both of them cannot or will not fight back. August 15th, 1971, President Nixon at the time, a conservative Republican, as we know, goes on the radio and the TV, and he says to the American people, I'm going to do two things that are shocking. First, having organized the entire world economy since 1944 around the US dollar and its convertibility into gold, which we have stored in Fort Knox because of the two wars in the first half of the 20th century, which made everybody else who had gold store it in the United States because it was dangerous to do it anywhere else. London, Paris, Rome, Berlin, you wouldn't want to do that. And the rich people and the governments moved it. So we had it all. So he took that guarantee away. I want to stress, this is abusing the people you have told can depend on you. It is the equivalent of Mr. Trump having written his name on the incarnation of NAFTA when it was renegotiated during his first presidency and simply walking away and saying, I'm going to put tariffs on Mexico and Canada, even though I wrote the treaty banning that, right? So this is a lesson for people who think that treaties mean something. So what did that do? Well, it said to everybody, don't focus on the dollar because you can't convert it into gold. They won't give you gold. What you got is a dollar, and you better figure out how to manage that, which might include getting rid of it. But then what would you do with the wealth that you're getting rid of in dollars? In what form would you hold it? And the problem then, and it's still a problem today, is not that the dollar isn't deteriorating in value. It is. Not that the dollar is much less safe than it used to be. That's also true. But what's unfortunately also true is it's not so clear what's a better bet. The euro isn't, for all the reasons we can see. And the Chinese, while they are looking there, the yuan, their currency, is not quite at that stage yet. So we're in a limbo. And so what people are doing when they're in a limbo and they don't know how to hold their wealth, they go back to the ancient form, gold. And if you pay any attention, you'll know that over the last 6 months, the price of gold has gone through the roof, been a better investment than anything else you could have invested in, pretty much. Okay, the deal after August 15th, 1971 went like this. The United States is going to become the global hegemon beyond what it already was. We were that at the end of World War II. We became that even more after that speech in 1971, because here was the way it was going to work. We are going to be the rich center of the world. We are going to buy everything we want from any corner of the world. Our military will make sure we have access to it. Our military will make sure it's at a price we want to pay. And we'll pay for it with these green pieces of paper that literally cost us nothing to produce. We will send you the green pieces of paper. And you know what you're going to do with them? You are going to lend them back to the United States, so that the whole exercise will be us, literally like a vacuum cleaner, soaking up the wealth of the world, and you will all be lending us the money to do it, because we're not rich enough to do it on our own. We need you to lend us the money, whereupon the United States became, over the last 30 years, the #1 debtor country on this planet. So we've been living in an even more bizarre imbalance in the last 30 years than we did in the 30 after World War II, because it's one thing to have a lot of gold and be able to do what they did for those 30 years, but it's another when the gold is no longer relevant and you're really just dealing in this paper illusion, because that will come to an end. When another country is beginning to produce goods and services that mean the world has an option. It doesn't have to deal with the United States. And that's what we got. We got now an empire that has, for the first time, a real competitor. And in that situation, all of the arrangements are gone. The biggest problem for Mr. Trump right now is referred to in the financial press as the bond market. Let me close by making it clear. That's a euphemism for the following problem. The world no longer wants to lend to the United States. They have other things they want to do with the money. But the whole game is based on we get to consume like crazy and you lend us the money to do it. But they won't. Americans won't lend to the American government the way they once did, and nobody else will either. And the United States is stuck. It can't continue to function if it can't play the game of the last 30 to 40 years, 50 years now, since 71. And so Mr. Trump is saying, okay, I'm going to smash the standard of living of the United States. We're not going to have to borrow. We're not going to let our people consume. And we're going to punish the rest of the world. We're going to make the rest of the world fund us directly through the deals I cut, through the tariffs that will be charged them, and the damage we can do them if they don't knuckle under. That's all we have left. And here's the analogy. We're not the hegemon anymore ideologically. The Chinese have shown that their combination of private and state enterprise is much more successful in growing their system than ours is in growing ours. That train has left the station, and the whole world, except America, knows it. So we can't dominate economically. What's happened with the last 4 wars we fought shows that. We can't dominate politically. You know, we're the only country supporting Israel in the Gaza horror. The whole rest of the world is, even Europe is now washing its hands of all of this. All we've got left is the military. What a terrible idea. But you know, it's paralleled in economics. All we have left is a program of savaging our allies, trying to savage our enemies, and hoping against hope it gives us a few more years. Although I would caution people about it. Retaliation is what the Europeans are working on right now. Retaliation is what the Chinese have already shown us. When the rest of the world figures all that out over the next few months, the difficulties of this country and of the path Mr. Trump has chosen to save it will become overwhelming. If I were Mr. Trump's advisor, I would tell him the next midterm elections, unless you are very lucky, all of your plans will disappear.